Hey guys, I'm Russ.
And I'm Seeger.
We're with the Vagabond Arcade, and tonight we thought that we would take a look at the Midwest Gaming Classic that we just went to on November 5th to the 7th. And we figured we'd share some of our thoughts tonight. Now, the main reason that led us there was that Seeger actually presented the game that he's working on. And Seegs, I don't know, maybe you could just kind of tell us a little bit about what it was like, bringing your game for the first time and where it was at and what kind of feedback you got.
Yeah, absolutely. The game is called Beyond the Woods, and I'm developing it specifically to be an arcade game, so it's not in a full cabinet, but I built a little demo unit that has arcade controls on it and brought that to MGC to demo in their Future Classics section, which is basically they have indie game developers bring their games and demo them. And it was a unique experience for me. It's the first time I've ever done anything like this. This is the first game that I've ever made. It was kind of intense. Most of the other people there had like a complete product that they were showing and selling, and my game is like in a really rough, incomplete state, and I just brought it just to get people's opinions, get feedback, and
just the waters on it a bit.
Yeah, and just put it out there and just see what people thought, and that kind of just being in that position among all of these professional indie developers.
Finished polished games.
Yeah, it was kind of intimidating, and
Sure.
But all of the people there were super nice and very supportive. All of the other developers that we met were very supportive and very interested, and they had a lot of questions for me about making games for the arcade and just the arcade thing in general, because most of them were they were kind of in two camps. There were people that were making and selling games on Steam, and then there were a bunch of people that were there with NES Maker, which is this tool for making brand new NES games, and there were a handful of people there, I don't know, maybe a dozen.
Yeah.
Quite a few,
yeah.
That were there, selling their games on actual physical NES cartridges, like brand new games, which was really interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, from my perspective, it was a little intimidating, and I definitely had a little bit of imposter syndrome, but it was cool, and it kind of renewed my, I don't know, when you're making a game, especially like on your own, like solo, it's easy to kind of like lose your like through line, you kind of get laser focused on all these details, and you kind of forget what the experience is going to be like for other people coming in from outside. And demoing your game is really helpful with kind of snapping you out of that and being like, all right, I'm making a game here, I'm not making, I'm not making title screens and like HUD graphics and stuff like that. Those are all parts of it, but it's really easy to get very micro focused on making and polishing things like that when it's kind of like, yeah, but there's still a game here that people have to engage with and hopefully enjoy. So yeah, it kind of renewed my focus on working on the game and kind of broadening my focus on moving forward. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, awesome, man. You'd mentioned the Future Classics section that you were in.
Yeah.
That again, features a lot of indie games, and there was a lot of awesome ones that we just figured we'd kind of shout out and talk about here a little bit. The guy that was set up right next to Seeger was this guy named Jonah, and he's working it's pretty much done, this game called Kung Fu Kickball.
Yep.
That looked really, really cool.
Yeah.
I just watched some people play it, but I think you got to sit down and play it a little bit.
I just played it one player versus the computer, but it's basically, it's kind of like a 2-on-2 like soccer game, soccer match, but you can like kick and punch your opponents and stuff, and it's kind of cartoony. It kind of reminds me of like a cutesy version of Dragon Ball Z, like all the characters.
Yeah, I can see that.
And you kind of it's not like a flat field either. It's got like hills, and there are different levels.
Obstacles.
Different levels have different geometry and stuff, and you basically have to travel the ball down to their end and then ring the bell.
Yeah, and that's how you score a point.
Jonah had that set up, on a big screen with 4 controllers, and he had people playing that all weekend. It was like a big hit, and I think they're going to do well. They're releasing, I think, on Switch and Steam, I believe. I think all the main consoles it's coming to. I play PS4, and he said that in December it's going to be coming to PS4. So I'm really looking forward to that, and I'm probably going to tell some of my friends that I play online with and stuff to pick it up, so we can have some competitive matches going. It's really addictive and really fun. And
there's YouTube videos of it, so if you search out Kung Fu Kickball, you should be able to find some stuff on it. And it looks really fun and really competitive. Like you'd have some fun,
we'll link it in the show notes too.
Sure, yeah. But I could see that being a lot of fun, trash talking your friends and stuff. Yes. Another thing to note about Kung Fu Kickball 2 is that he's in the works of making it into an arcade game and having the arcade cabinet built.
Yep.
I don't know if he had any sort of time frame on that, but definitely.
I think they were planning next year, but who knows?
Okay.
The way the supply chain and stuff has been lately, but that's definitely something that I would consider getting for here if we could make it happen. I think people would really enjoy playing that.
Yeah. Well, and it'd be cool for us as an arcade to have something that's new and really unique that you're not gonna find, necessarily at other arcades and stuff. So
absolutely.
Again, take a look and check out Kung Fu Kickball, because it's really cool, and Jonah was like incredibly nice fella to talk to.
Yeah, he was.
Stuff. So, another one that was on there, it was a game that was made with NES Maker called Space Raft. And Space Raft is kind of an interesting one, and really interesting premise, because Space Raft is actually a local indie rock band in Milwaukee. And I guess they've been around for a while, and they have a few albums out. I haven't really had a chance to check out their music much yet, but they made an NES game based off of their band, and I believe the premise of the game is an ex-member of the band steals the recordings of the new album, and you have to chase him down, and you go through. Apparently, I saw that you actually go through different historical locations in Milwaukee, and have to. Basically kind of search this guy out and get the recordings back.
I wonder if that's based on a real experience.
Yeah, for sure. Right. It must be real bitter about this ex-member or something. But it looks really cool, and apparently they chip-tuned their own music into the game and stuff.
Very cool.
And we met the main guy in the band that made it, and it looks really cool. And I think it's available for the NES. So again, we'll probably stick a link to something for this game.
We'll see if we can find something.
But if not, you can do a search on YouTube, and you can find some gameplay footage as well as find their music to listen to. And I find it really interesting because I think it's a really outside the box idea for a band to do. It's like I've played in bands, and still do, and it just was just like, wow, what a really just out there idea to do. Like, hey, who thinks let's make a game about our band and put out, So that one's super cool. It's called Space Raft. And then there's another one. I believe this was done with NES Maker as well. And maybe you could shed a little bit more light on this because I didn't really get to see a ton of it, and I've just watched a few YouTube videos. But the game's called Dungeons and Doom Knights, and it's kind of an RPG adventure kind of thing. I think they describe it as a Zelda-vania.
Yeah, totally. It's like that. It's very much like Legend of Zelda, where it's kind of got the overview sort of like map, and there's all these areas you can go into, but it's kind of it's a little more like serious than Zelda, you know, like the it's got a little more kind of like, so it's got some gothic horror kind of themes. Like there's like one of the bosses is like this vampire chick, and when you defeat her, then you can turn into a bat. And it's got some interesting elements to it too. Like when you start out, you're standing on the back of a dragon, and basically you jump off, and like the sort of direction you pick is where you end up on the map, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
It's kind of an interesting way of starting the game, and it's very cool. And I talked with Artix, who is he's like the head man for that game. I don't know if he's like the main designer, but I guess I did a little bit of like reading up about his company and stuff after MGC, and I didn't realize this at the time, but he's got like an MMO, like a web-based MMO that they've been running for like 16 years called Adventure Quest. So I think that's like their main... His company's like main product is that, and then they came out, they were interested in making an NES Maker game, so they made this Dungeons and Doom Knights game.
Cool.
So
it looks cool. I think I want to look into seeing if I can get my hands on the cartridge for my NES collection. Because that's definitely a route I'm wanting to go with my NES collecting. Is not so much of like the classic library, is getting some of these new indie games and stuff, and really tricking my library out with some new unique games and stuff.
Yeah, get stuff while the getting's good. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And another game, I think I'll probably hand this over to Cease because he talked with the guy a lot more. But it's an interesting game. It's a first-person shooter made with vector graphics, and it's called Paradox Vector. And it has a really, really interesting look, really unique, really cool, vibrant colors.
Yeah, absolutely. So Michael Schmidt he's like I guess he's a solo developer, and he didn't really have much there that he was demoing, but he gave a talk and basically ran through his whole library of games and did like a little presentation about each of his games. And Paradox Vector was the one that really stood out among the games that he's made to me, and I thought it was very striking and just like a great idea, very cool, because it's got that really retro vector sort of look, like Tempest, but it's a fully immersive 3D environment that you move around in, so it's like almost like Tron, a Tron world, but it's a first-person shooter. And I watched. I haven't played it yet, but I watched some gameplay footage of it, and I thought it was really cool. And it came out last year, and I'm not sure how well it seems like it was reviewed well on Steam. But I think that the concept that he had could be explored further. And I was kind of talking to him about making arcade games and stuff, and I feel like that would be a really great fit for sort of either making a sequel or developing that concept into an arcade game, because vector graphics fit in more with arcades.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And I feel like the first person, and he kind of admitted that he was like, the Venn diagram of like of first-person shooter fans and vector graphics fans don't intersect. You know, like there's like no.
Yeah. Where is that?
And I was like, yeah, but for the arcade, you know, there's a big overlap with arcades and vector graphics, and yeah, I was chatting with him about, you know, setting up arcade, you know, hardware and stuff and controls, and I would love to see that. And yeah, we'll put some footage up or a link to Paradox Vector, because that's definitely one that people should check out.
Yeah, it has a really unique look. I found it really interesting because it has kind of a simple look, but at the same time it's a very like
it's eye popping.
It's eye popping and like it looks simple, but at the same time it's almost looks complex, if that makes any sense. I don't know. You have to take a look for the footage of it for yourself and see what you think, and you might see what I'm trying to get
absolutely.
Here. It's kind of hard to explain exactly, but it's very striking.
Yeah, it's cool.
Really striking.
Another feature of that game that I should mention real quick is that it has non-Euclidean geometry.
Oh yeah, you were telling me about that. And I think I got my brain wrapped around.
No, it's hard to conceive of, and basically there are like sort of MC Escher-esque kinds of spaces in that game where you can go around. You can basically go down a hallway that goes away from, like, say, a balcony or something, and you will come out on that balcony. Because this, like, I guess the way vector graphics are made is, it's not like 3D graphics where you make something that physically connects. It's kind of just done with math. So you can make stuff like that where, you know, passages that don't connect, you know, and there's a lot of stuff like that in that game. Or like, he showed, like, there's like it's a square hallway that only has 3 corners, but they all meet up. And then there's a spot where there's like a shaft above you, and if you go around this corridor and come back, it's on the floor.
Weird, man.
So there's bizarre. A lot of really cool, like, spatial kinds of puzzles in that game like that. So yeah, definitely. I can't say too much about that. I think it's really neat.
Yeah,
it's
Really
special.
clever.
Yeah.
Was there anything else in the Future Classics that really stood out to you? I just had my few written down here, and
I'm trying to think. I think those were the main, like, highlights.
The ones that we kind of chatted with and stuff too.
You know, there were several, like, NES games that were made with NES Maker.
Right, that like, Doodle World
cool, but you know, not like you know, nothing amazing. And then there was one other game that I thought was pretty interesting. I didn't get a chance to play it a lot, but they were set up near us. It's called 1-Bit. And basically, it's it's kind of an endless running roguelike.
Yeah.
And it's meant for, I think it might be on Steam, but it's kind of meant for mobile, it seems like.
Okay.
Because you just kind of run down this corridor and, like, you know, it procedurally generates enemies and barriers and stuff, and then just like Rogue, you know, you kind of run into the enemies to attack them. And it has item management and leveling up and all kinds of intense stuff like that. But it was very cool, and that one's actually locally made in Milwaukee. Like,
cool.
They're a Milwaukee native team. So
very cool.
Yeah, 1-Bit. Check it out.
Heck yeah. Now, in the same area as the Future Classics was the main arcade and pinball hall that also had the video game museum in it. You know, old PCs and stuff, running old games from the 70s and stuff. But if you're a pinball enthusiast, holy cow, there's a lot of pinball. It seems like every year there's more and more pinball.
Yeah. Yep.
So if you're a pinball enthusiast, I really highly recommend you check out Midwest Gaming Classic. I like pinball all right. You know, I don't know how to dig in deep. I figured, you know, just talk about a few of the newer ones that we played that kind of stood out. There's a new one. I think this was a Stern. Oh, but the Godzilla pinball. Mm-hmm. Was that a Stern?
I think so.
There's so many I get mixed up there.
I think that was, yeah.
Okay. And that one I thought was one that kind of stood out to me. Get some of the objectives, and then you can select the kaiju that you want to fight, and then there's some objectives to take it down. And it had really cool gameplay and a cool look and stuff. And if you like Godzilla and stuff, I mean I don't know what more to say on it because I don't know all the inner workings of the objectives of it. I only played it a little bit. I was just going off the ones that I kind of did the best at, or kind of struck me a little bit.
For sure. Like I like pinball. Okay, I'm not a huge pinball fanatic, but I do enjoy playing it, and I love pinball machines as like
works of art. That's kind of my thing.
Yeah, as like a craft and as a piece of technology, and like where technology and art sort of intersect is really cool. And I love to like sort of critique the presentation of them and and how they feel. Like I judge pinball machines a lot by like how they feel and sound. Like a lot of times you play some pinball machines and they're kind of like thwack 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 thwack. Yeah. And sometimes you play them and they're like, like they have a real like muted sort of subtle thumpy sound. And I guess I don't want to get too far into the weeds, but I guess the pinball that stood out to me was there was a fan-made pinball machine based on Undertale. The video game Undertale, somebody had made an entire...
I'm kind of mildly familiar with the game Undertale, it's one I probably should play but haven't.
And I've played it a fair amount, and my kids are into it. But somebody had made a Undertale themed pinball machine, and it was very cool. It was really, really professionally made, and
it looked really nice.
And the game was cool, and the modes were cool, and it felt good and sounded good. It was it was very intense. Like it was a really great presentation to see there. And kudos to whoever made that. If you're watching this, keep it up.
Yeah, right.
And then as far as the commercial machines that were there, like the new ones, the one that stood out to me the most was probably the Halloween by Spooky Pinball.
I did not get a chance to play that. Every time I went by, there's people on it, and I didn't feel like standing around waiting for a while. And kind of sad, being a horror movie enthusiast and stuff. I'm kind of bummed that I didn't get to try that one. But again, there's so much going on there that there's always going to be things that you miss and don't get to try.
I kind of made it, having been to MGC before, I kind of made it a point to like just kind of pick a machine that I want to play and just kind of like hover by it and just kind of wait, because sometimes if you're like, oh well, I'm just going to play this instead, you just miss a lot of the stuff you would like to do. But I got a couple of rounds on the Halloween pinball, and I thought it was really well presented and really nice. It's got like there's like, I want to say it's 2, but there might even be 3 like mini playfields up in the corner that are like different rooms of the house. You can get the ball up there, and you can keep things going around in there. It was just really well presented, and I don't know, Spooky Pinball they're out of Wisconsin, and they're like this tiny little like boutique pinball company, and so they have a special place in my heart just because of that too,
Heck yeah. Yeah, I mean, a couple other ones that I kind of noted, I don't really know how to really have like details to go in, but they just kind of struck me, and maybe it was because I did slightly better at them than other pinball machines. But the Hot Wheels pinball machine.
Oh, I didn't get a chance on that. I didn't play that.
I'm not sure who I don't think that was Stern. I think that was maybe American.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
American Pinball Company. But that one was surprisingly fun for being, a pinball machine about Matchbox cars, or whatever. But it was surprisingly fun. Yeah. And like, I don't know, like, there's like loop-de-loops and stuff that your ball will go through, and there's like, you get unlock different like cars that have different point values and stuff like that. It was surprisingly a fun one, man.
Yeah.
Like I just tried it randomly, just kind of like, oh, whatever, it's the new one, let's see, and I found myself enjoying it. I think I ended up playing it 3 or 4 times.
Yeah. Huh. Cool.
That was kind of a surprise, but I also I enjoyed the Mandalorian one. I think that's a newer Stern, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to play Mandalorian either.
I just played it once because I actually didn't even see it until way later on because it was kind of tucked in a spot kind of in the back. And again, there's so many pinball machines there.
Yep.
But just I don't know. I enjoyed it. I mean, big part. I'm a fan of the show Mandalorian and a Star Wars fan and stuff. So that's cool on its own. But it was it played really nice. Like I had a nice time playing it, and like I wasn't just draining the ball. I mean it just goes right down the middle.
Yeah, that definitely chaps my ass. You start a pinball. You you launch the ball, it goes up, bounces around, and then drains down the middle. It's just like, all right.
Yeah.
I don't like you.
Right, yeah. The ones where it's like you launch the ball and you don't even get to hit the flippers or even get a shot and it just drains on you. So, as far as the newer ones, again, the Mandalorian, again, I don't really have details to go into on it about Pinball, but I enjoyed it and I thought it was fun and I liked the theme because, again, Mandalorian's a cool show. The one that I still like a lot, and it's newer, but it's not brand new, is the Houdini Pinball, which is another American pinball company. One, I don't know if you got a chance to play that one.
I didn't play it this time, but I played it previous.
Yeah, and that's one that I don't know, for some reason, like the theme of it, and like you get to pick the different illusion or escape trick to do, and then you got to do some objectives to make it happen, and like the art on the art style that comes up on the screen is almost like that old like Monty Python, Terry Gilliam kind of animation stuff. That's kind of silly looking,
like cut out kind of paper animation.
Yeah, and I don't know. That one has stood out to me for a long time, and that's one I definitely would like to have in here. But pinball machines, even older ones, are spendy. Another one that was kind of fun, I think it might be a remake, but the Cactus Canyon, a kind of a Western themed one.
Oh yeah, I played that.
And I think that's another American pinball company.
Yeah, I think it was too. Yeah.
One, and I played that pretty early on when we got there, but that was another one I don't really, have a bunch of details on it, but I just found it fun, and the Western theme for a pinball machine somehow works really well. I don't know, like I enjoyed it, and it's one that I definitely would come back to and play again. Another one I wanted to note on here is not a new pinball machine. I just found it funny. And we'll probably throw a picture of the back glass art of it up in here, but it's called Skateball, and it's a very simple pinball machine, but it's just got this goofy looking dude on the back glass freaking doing he's doing some sort of skateboard trick. Yeah,
it's got to be a game from like the 70s or 80s.
It's probably 80s.
The guy's got a big like porn stash.
The way it played similar to that Panthera pinball machine when we had that in here.
Yep.
But I thought it was fun, and just the theme of it was just goofy and really stood out to me.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, there was so many pinball machines there. It's like I played so many, and even thinking about it to do this video, I can't even recall a bunch of them that I played because there was so many.
Yeah, definitely.
But also in the same hall, they had arcade games, and this was the first year that they were actually having an online auction. For the arcade games, which was pretty cool. We did talked about it, but unfortunately, as a company, we didn't, have enough money to make a move on anything, let alone the transportation to get a cabinet back here. I was just curious some of your thoughts on that auction, and there's definitely some nice stuff that was in there.
Yeah, there were some definite gems in there.
Mm-hmm.
There were some things that like. I don't know. I guess it kind of like it kind of irks me personally when I see stuff like for sale or on auction that is like just like beat up, that nobody's put any like,
right,
you know, like it's just kind of like they don't make sure that it works. They don't make sure that, you know, like it's set up for free play or that it's playable. You know, they don't make sure that, you know, like the sticks and buttons work. And it's just kind of like, you're selling a machine, you're trying to get top dollar, and you can't put a freaking like $15 joystick in to make it playable at MGC. I could understand at like some other auction where you're just trying to get rid of stuff, but at MGC it's also a show where people are there to play stuff.
Yeah.
And there were a few things that weren't playable, and that was kind of a bummer.
Yeah, that was kind of my gripe with it too. It's like, I understand if you're auctioning stuff or selling it.
Yeah.
It's gonna be as is on the average, but you are at a convention where these games are going to be out and meant to be played the entire weekend, and a lot of them were just not in good working order. Like one of the ones I brought, you know, that stuck to me was Giggle Wing. It's an overhead shooter that I've never really gotten a chance to play, and I was excited to try it, but both sticks didn't work.
Right.
Well,
right.
To where the game was close to unplayable, and it was just like, well, you guys,
game you can't.
Yeah.
You know, like it's.
You know, and there was the same with there was a House of the Dead 3 or 4 that was in there, and I was trying to play it, and the guns weren't calibrated. I'm shooting down like this to make it shoot up here like this, and it's just like it's unplayable, and like. When these games are brought in, they're getting auctioned, but they're there to be played the entire weekend.
Yeah.
I feel like the people that were auctioning these should have taken a little time to get them in fully working order. Yeah. That's kind of my biggest gripe with what it was, because there were some that, you know, I was excited to play and just were absolutely unplayable, and you'd think you'd want them working because it'd probably drive the price up a little bit higher for you selling it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Too, you know.
Yeah.
But that aside, I mean, Gigawing was cool, at least to see and try to play a little bit.
I did play some that. I think it was House of the Dead 4. And I used the second gun, and that was working.
Okay.
And that game was really fun. I enjoyed it a lot.
No, it was fun. Yeah, I used the first gun, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, this is not calibrated, and like, I ended up shooting like this to hit something, and
I mean, just like spraying zombies with an Uzi, it just doesn't get much better.
It's the little things. But another one that I had never played, I'd heard of the game, and I guess it's sort of a puzzle game, but it's called Mr. Driller.
Yeah.
And I think Siegs especially really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of fun with it too. I mean, how would you describe the gameplay to that?
So it's, it's hard to explain. It's kind of like a combination of like Dig Dug and like Tetris. I don't know. It's like, so you're this little cartoony guy that's got a drill, and you go downward. You can move back and forth, and then when you press the button, you drill downward. And basically the playfield is made up of these like Tetris-like pieces. And when you drill it, the whole thing like basically disintegrates, and you drop down to the next level. And the goal is to get as deep as you can, but when the blocks disappear, they resettle in new ways, and you can be crushed. So you have to be careful, like what you're drilling and what all your next moves are going to be, because things will fall on you. Yeah. And then the other thing is, you run out of air, so you have like a meter that slowly goes down. That's like your air supply. And then
there's little air capsules
are power-ups that you can get that give you more air. So you have to like kind of strategize whether or not it's worth sticking your neck out to get more air, or to just kind of stay the course and try to like get through it. But that game is really good and really like addictive.
Yes,
like
yeah.
it's kind of embarrassing.
A fairly like simple concept,
Yeah.
but really addicting. I mean,
Yeah.
and that was one, that we were both like.
I kept coming back to it of all the games.
If we were in any sort of position to pull the trigger on a game in that auction, it probably would have been Mr. Driller.
Yeah, it was cool. Yeah.
So now it's on our radar for our for the future.
Yeah, and puzzle games do really well in here.
They do.
We have a couple
Puzzle
of
Bobble and-
we have a couple of Neo Geo puzzle games. The Bust Move and Magical Drop.
Magical Drop. Yeah.
And both of those people really like both of those games, so I think Mr. Driller would probably do well here too.
Yeah, I think so too. Another one that kind of stood out to me, we don't have to go too far in, but there was Strider 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
And-
never played that before.
Yeah, I had never seen. I mean, I knew it existed, but the thing that really stands out about that is the 2.5D perspective,
Yeah.
where it's in between 2D and 3D. Really, it's kind of a hard thing to like describe how it works, but as you're moving through the level, things kind of move with a kind of a 3D effect on it.
There's a perspective shift.
Yeah.
on things. That's.
And it was pretty cool and kind of different, and I'm always
It's pretty rare. I don't think I've ever seen one for sale before.
Yeah, for sure. And just that 2.5D perspective is so intriguing.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not a ton
It's
of
an early game for that too. Like I feel like that was probably kind of ahead of its time.
Yeah.
I don't think there were many games that were doing that
Yeah.
when that game came
And there's
out.
there's only like some handfuls that are in that style to my knowledge.
Yeah, on the arcade. Yeah.
Yeah. Another one. This is just a straight up classic that I've played but don't get to play very often, and that is Robotron. Robotron.
You never get tired of that.
No, I love the Robotron joke. But I mean, I don't know what there is to say about it. It's one of the early like twin stick shooter games.
It's cool. I played it. I think I had played it, like way back when, but I have not played it for a long time, and I definitely enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I played a few rounds on it. It's very high paced and very
it's intense. I mean, there's not a dull moment. I mean,
Right.
the moment the game starts, you're friggin' going, and it's another very addicting game.
Mhm.
Like again, I would love to have it in here. It would be fantastic.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And last, I guess we've already kind of talked about it, but the House of the Deads. There was the first one and the fourth one in there, both of which are really cool. And I like like you said, who doesn't like shooting zombies with an Uzi or spraying them down,
Right, for
so,
sure, it was cool.
But those are great, and definitely, ones that we would like to have in here and stuff. But that was kind of some standouts. Were there any other arcade standouts?
Yeah. I mean, speaking of zombies, they had Sega's Zombie Raid.
Oh,
and
right.
I played that a fair amount.
I didn't get a chance to play that one.
Yeah, it's cool. It's like it's basically like Sega's take on like Resident Evil as an arcade game.
Sure.
Like there's not as much like suspense building and puzzle puzzle item juggling things like Resident Evil, but it's pretty much like collect ammo and beat up and shoot zombies as you like move through a city, and it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's a newer game. It's kind of like Dreamcast era. I would have to say,
Something
like Sega Naomi / Dreamcast kind of graphics. But I enjoyed playing that. I played that a bit too. That was at the auction.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So there's definitely some cool stuff, but again, some of the presentations on these were a little rough. But pretty cool to see them. Hopefully people made out pretty well. With the auction, I didn't get a chance to see where prices were at or anything. Yeah, it was probably better that we didn't. But then there's also going on. There was the thing that gets covered a lot from Midwest Gaming Classic, and that's the vendor hall. Mm-hmm. People like to shoot their videos of the vendor hall and do their pickups, which is cool. But there's a lot of videos of people doing the vendor hall, and essentially, most any game you're looking for, you're going to be able to find there. As well as tons of just pop culture, memorabilia and this and that.
All kinds of stuff.
I picked up a few things. I'm not going to bore people with, here's my pickups and this and that. Just, whatever. There's a few things, nothing really all that noteworthy. But, no, but it's, it's cool. Again, like if you're a collector, it's...
If you got money to spend, you can definitely spend a lot in there. There's some...
I have past years.
I'm trying to think of some of the, there's just, obviously, classic game stuff. But there was, that one vendor, and they were just selling vinyls of video game soundtracks. That was their whole
really
business.
Cool. Yeah.
And that was neat.
Yeah.
And there were people selling all kinds of anime merch and, those Funko Pops. And
those things are hugely popular. Well, there's also people selling, tabletop stuff like dice bags or sets of dice and, set adventures. I can't think of the word I'm looking for. Like campaign books for D&D and stuff like that. And there's a lot of cool things like that. A thing that stuck out to me, which unfortunately I was out of my spending money, but there was these people that just had milk crates and milk crates full of 11 by 17 prints of movie posters, TV shows, just video games, and they had some really, really nice ones in there that I wanted to get, but I had to kind of stop myself because again my money was running out. But they had the one that was really after was they had The Better Off Dead, which is one of my favorite movies, and Big Trouble in Little China, and Phantasm, and some other ones. No Pumpkinhead, unfortunately.
But we know how you love Pumpkinhead.
Yeah. But I thought that was cool because they just had tons. You could sit there and flick through there for hours looking for stuff. But it's cool. It's it's the vendor hall. If you're a collector, you can find most anything. I think a lot of the people selling, their prices are marked up a decent bit because it is a convention, so they're trying to get a little bit more. But a lot of them are open to some haggling and stuff too, it seems. So, but definitely cool. It's some of the other standouts, at least for things that I did and checked out. I sat in. There's panels going on, speakers and stuff going on the entire time, and I sat in on a voice acting panel that had. Let's see if I got their names here. Richard Horvitz, who does the voice of Raz from the Psychonauts series. He does Invader Zim. And he does the voice of the little robot from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, whose name I can't think of because I don't remember the last time I watched Power Rangers.
15 years ago.
Yeah, probably more than that now, probably 20, 25 years. There was Scott Burns, who did the voice of Bowser in Mario Sunshine, which is pretty cool. And then there was Christopher Sean, who does the voice of I think one of the lead characters from the Star Wars Resistance cartoon.
Oh, okay.
And stuff, and they just kind of talked about some of their how they got their start in voice acting and just some tips on getting into it, some tips on getting your putting yourself into the character that you're doing. And I have some interest in doing some voice acting. It seems in the future I might be doing some of the voice acting for Seeger's game Beyond the Woods, down the road. So it was cool to just sit in and listen to some of these guys talk about it, and and they did some of the voices too, so that was fun. Also going on throughout it, there was actually some pro wrestling matches that they had going on.
I didn't catch any of those. In the background,
I tried to find what circuit it was or what what a wrestling company, whatever you would want to call it, was. And I couldn't find it, but it was really fun. I'm not a huge wrestling guy, I watched WWF when I was a kid, and that's about it. But actually seeing it live in front of you makes it a lot more fun. Like you can just it's goofy, but at the same time you don't realize how loud it is. Holy cow, when they slam a guy on the mat, it is ridiculously loud. But it was really fun, just an extra thing. I was just kind of meandering through. I was like, oh shoot, this match is going, I'll just stop and watch it for a while. And I was laughing and clapping in no time. It was really fun. Another thing, most everybody knows that I met a YouTuber named John Riggs, who was a guest there, and he's pretty well known in the retro gaming community for his YouTube channel and his support of indie games and this and that. And he's a super nice guy, and I was really, really happy to meet him and just we didn't chat really. I think we were kind of on our way out at the end of the weekend, but it was really nice to meet him and just chat with him. And it's nice when there's somebody whose channel or whatever you've been following for a while and you meet them and they're just incredibly kind. Like it goes a long ways, and so that was kind of some of the things that I saw and did. See, what about you? What about some of the some standout stuff that you did or saw?
I think we covered most of it. I was there representing the game. So that kind of
you were manning the game a lot for a lot of it.
So it took up a lot of my time. I was pretty much in the arcade hall for the great majority of the time, and I didn't get any pickups or anything. But I don't know. I had a great time.
Yeah, I
had an
absolute blast.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
I think.
I don't know. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's notable. I guess we didn't really talk about some of the cosplayers that we saw.
Oh yeah,
that was pretty cool.
Yeah, there was some real cool cosplayers. There was the girl that had the yellow Mandalorian armor.
Yeah, that was really
that was really well done. Like hers, it was really cool. And and again, I'm like a Star Wars fan, so I was like, oh hell yeah, that's great.
Yeah, for sure.
And and then there was a person who really had that incredible Samus armor from Metroid that looks like they must have 3D printed all of it or something.
It looked
to
like
a
Samus
T.
was standing there.
Yeah, it was incredible. I'm surprised I didn't see them around the convention. It wasn't until the cosplay contest was getting ready that I actually saw them. I'm like, why did I not see them walking around and stuff? I missed out on a sweet photo op or something.
Maybe it's really hot and uncomfortable.
That could be, right. Let's wait till the cosplay contest to put this stuff on that's poking me.
Right.
Got sharp edges in there.
And there was a crew there that had a Street Fighter
sure.
Crew costume thing.
I think they were a family. I was talking to talked to the girl that was Chun-Li, and she was kind of talking and just being like, yeah, my dad is Ryu, and my brother's supposed to be Ken, and
cool.
so there was a family ordeal or something, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was an absolute blast, there's, obviously a few little constructive criticisms, that you could say for it, one little one that I had was sitting in on the panel of voice actors is right across the hall, or right outside the room where they had the panel they had air hockey tables. So you're sitting there trying to listen to people talking here, click, 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 and I'm spitting all over. But it was just kind of maybe put those a little further away next time. But no, other than that, there's, what's not really anything bad you can really say. It's an absolute blast. There is so much to see and do, and it's going to be coming back in late April again. We'll be heading there again, I'm pretty sure, to have more crazy times. And I don't know if you'll be bringing the game again this time or not, but we'll see where things are at in 6 months or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's about it. I guess thanks for tuning into our video. Check out some of the games that we talked about. if you're an indie game developer and you happen across this video, reach out to us and let us know about your game. We would love to hear about it.
Yeah,
and we are big supporters of the indie scene and want to be even more so.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, especially if you're in Wisconsin or in the Midwest. 'Cause
Yeah,
I feel like
absolutely.
we've got a small, thing going here, and we need to look out for each other and help support each other.
Yeah.
It's like just having our little Midwestern thing.
Whatever you want to.
All the
Midwestern indie game movement.
We're not Silicon Valley.
Right.
Yeah. So we got to look out for each other around here.
So yeah, drop us a line if you happen across this video. In the meantime, feel free to check out Vagabond Arcade. Come and see us here. Until then, with Siegs, I'm Russ.
Take it easy.
We'll see you
Thanks for
guys.
watching.